And we have with us Dr. McMillan. I'll just read out broadly. He is responsible for creation and development of education content for the CFA Institute, mainly in the area of ethics. Okay, his qualification is really wonderful because he is not only a chartered CPA, which is a chartered accountant, he's a CFA, and he is also PhD in accounting and finance. I'm not sure whether I've missed anything else. Okay. Okay, plus he's the director of the Society for Ethics Training. Okay, so we have with us today talking to us about ethics, particularly with the investment banking sector and generally ethics, and managers, what are the challenges and so on. And just to tell you, we have with us women leaders as well. We are doing some executive program for them, and they are, taking up leadership roles very soon.
Good.
Okay. So we have them, so please welcome Dr. McMillan.
Thank you all very much. And let me just ask, how many of you are familiar with the CFA Institute? And how many of you are familiar with the CFA program, the designation? Good. And how many now here's the real question, how many of you plan to become CFA charter holders? I see the men raise their hand. I don't see the women. I see one woman raising her hand. Well, one of the things that CFA Institute is really making a concerted effort is to increase the diversity within the investment management industry. Because we believe that the greater the diversity in the industry, the more it will be able to serve its clients. And unfortunately, right now, the number of CFA charter holders who are women is only 18%. And it's stayed at that 18% level for the past 20 or 30 years. So as part of our effort to increase diversity within the industry, we are now offering special scholarships to women who want to pursue the CFA charter. And we also are holding women in management and investment management conferences to encourage more women to participate in the industry. I have two of my colleagues here, Sonia, who is a member of CFA, the Indian Society of Investment Analysts, who is a charter holder. And then we have Rati here, who works for the CFA Institute in our Mumbai office. So between the three of us, if you have any interest in participating in the CFA program or finding out more information about the program, please make an effort to contact any one of us, and we'll certainly provide you with our contact information at the end. All right, so let's get started. I will say I am a former professor myself. I used to teach accounting and finance at Johns Hopkins Carey School of Business. So I'm very much used to what graduate school is like. All right, so let's talk about this. All right, so this is the mission of the CFA Institute. And the reason why I bring this up is, for the first 50 years of the Institute, our mission was to lead the investment profession globally by promoting the highest standards of ethics, education, and professional excellence, period. After the financial crisis, however, in 2008, we added that last line for the ultimate benefit of society. Because it truly was society that suffered as a result of the financial crisis. People lost their homes, people lost their jobs, and in many cases, people lost their life savings. So at CFA Institute, we really believe that if we're able to raise the educational level of investment professionals in our industry, if we're able to increase the ethical behavior of investment professionals in our industry, that is ultimately going to benefit society. So, well, here's a little bit about the CFA Institute. It truly is a global organization. We have 147,000 members of CFA Institute, and of those 147,000, 140,000 are CFA charter holders. All right? In terms of global, something I want to mention is this. Although currently 62% of CFA charter holders are based in the Americas, Canada, the United States, and South America, 46% of our candidate pool is coming from our Asia Pacific region: India, China, Hong Kong, Singapore. So if you are interested in working anywhere in the world, be it London, be it Dubai, be it New York, having a CFA charter can provide you with that passport, if you will, to working in these countries or jurisdictions. Okay? All right, so just a couple of facts. The first CFA exam was given in 1963. At that point, we had 284 candidates. Last year in 2016, there were 205,000 people registered for the exam. So the exam continues to grow. The designation continues to receive greater attention, principally because of the ethics component. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. So there are 3 levels of the CFA exam, and the main part of the exam is ethics. Ethics is 10 to 15% of every level of the CFA exam. And as a CFA charter holder, every year we are required to, every year we are required to sign an affidavit as a CFA charter holder saying that we have lived up to and followed the CFA Code of Ethics and Standards of Professional Conduct. All right, mention that. Now, this is how we view ethical behavior at CFA Institute. Ethical behavior is doing the right thing when no one else is watching, even when doing the wrong thing is legal. And this is one of the reasons why people have lost trust in the investment industry, and in some cases are angry at investment professionals, because so many of the activities that led up to the financial crisis were legal, but they weren't ethical. And in general, there's a big difference between what's legal and what's ethical. The law represents the minimum standard that we all must follow. Ethics represents a much higher standard. So one of the reasons why employers look so favorably upon CFA charter holders is that they know we cannot just follow the law, we have to live up to that higher ethical standard. So, why should you act ethically? Quite simply, when I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. That is my religion. This is a statement from Abraham Lincoln. Yes, we want to do the right thing because we don't want to be put in jail or get in trouble, but really we should want to do the right thing because it makes us feel good. And anytime we do the wrong thing, we should feel bad. That should motivate us. So, in terms of the profession, now whether you decide to go into the investment management profession, to become accountants, whatever, here's something that's very important. Your profession is not what brings home your weekly paycheck. Your profession is what you're put here on earth to do with such passion and intensity that it becomes a spiritual calling. So whatever you decide to do, I hope you have that passion and intensity for it. Because instead of it being a job, you really will feel like it is a calling. Now, in terms of investment professionals, I have a quick question. Has anyone ever heard of this movie called The Wolf of Wall Street? How many have seen it? Okay. I want to say that The Wolf of Wall Street, it starred Leonardo DiCaprio, and it did not portray the investment industry in a very, very positive light. And I think that's one of the reasons why many people, especially women, are not interested in going into the industry, because they think it's full of men who are sexist, who are profane, etc. But there's more to the investment industry than that. When you ask people why do they want to become a doctor, why do they want to become a lawyer, a lot of times it's because they want to help people. And I do have to say, that's a large part of what you're doing in the investment industry. It's not about the money. It's about communicating information to clients who need it. It's about causing change in those clients' lives. It's about helping clients achieve their objectives so that they can send their children to university, so they can purchase homes, so that they can retire comfortably. So what do investment professionals do? As I mentioned, they communicate knowledge and information. People come to you because they need your knowledge of the markets, of the financial markets, of investments. You are hopefully going to cause positive change in their lives. They're going to provide you with money, and hopefully you can provide guidance and help them grow that money so they, again, can achieve their goals. You're going to instruct and guide them, and you are viewed by your clients as possessing special skills derived from training and education, prepared to exercise those skills in their interest. So my point in this is, don't let the stereotypes of the investment industry think that this is not an industry, unlike being a doctor or lawyer, where you're not helping people, because in fact, you really are. All right? So let's talk about ethics now. This is how we define ethics at CFA Institute. It begins with education. If you want to be ethical, you need to know the laws, the rules in the jurisdictions in which you're doing business. So ethics begins with education. Then it requires thinking. Thinking about honesty, integrity, character, and stewardship. As I showed you before, the Institute is a global organization, and it has been my pleasure to travel all around the world. This is my first time in India, as a matter of fact, so thank you, CFA Institute. But anyway, as I travel, people always ask me, well, what do you do? And I say, I teach ethics to investment professionals. And I've learned to pause and wait for the laughter to die down. Because people go, no, seriously, what do you do? And I go, I teach ethics to investment professionals. And then they ask, well, can you really teach people to be ethical? And I actually say, no, I can't. But what I can teach people to do is to think about the consequences and the perceptions of what they do before they do them. And if I'm able to accomplish that, I think I've gone a long way in getting people to make ethical decisions. So, our goal of ethics training today is just simple, just to encourage you to become more conscious and aware of your own thoughts and behaviors. So hopefully you'll be able to notice or identify an ethical issue and act upon it before it becomes a problem. Now, ethical dilemmas are a normal and predictable part of many jobs. Now, give me a job in which you work on, if you sell insurance, how are you compensated? How is someone who sells insurance compensated? Commissions, right? Now, does that represent an ethical dilemma? Yeah, and what's the ethical dilemma?
You want to maximize the number of policies you sell, even though they might not be optimal for your client.
Yes, all right. So ethical, any job on commission presents an ethical dilemma. It can sometimes create a conflict of interest because you only get paid if your client buys what you're selling. So it's at the end of the month and you get a call from an insurance person. Is this person selling insurance to you because it's in your best interest? Or is this person selling insurance to you because it's the end of the month and they have to pay for their rent, they have to pay for their car, etc.? This is not to say that people who work on commission are unethical, not in the least bit. It is to say, though, that ethical dilemmas are a normal and predictable part of many jobs. And when you work on commission, it's just a most obvious ethical dilemma. All right? So what we're going to do is talk about some approaches for dealing with these issues. Now, I said the last S in ethics was stewardship. Well, stewardship is the careful and responsible management of money that is entrusted to one's care. A doctor has stewardship, yes.
You mentioned this ethical dilemma.
Yes.
How is it any different from a corporate trying to make profits
Oh,
with their products?
okay, so how is an ethical dilemma of someone working on commission different from a corporation whose main goal is to make profits? Is that your question? Yes, by selling their products. That's a good question. Well, first of all, it depends on whether you're talking about the short term or the long term. Companies can make profits by selling products that aren't good over the short term. But it's going to be very hard for these companies to stay in business over the long term. All right? I look at, there's a case recently, McMillan, M-Y-L-A-N, which is a drug company. McMillan raised the price. They sold this medical device called an EpiPen. An EpiPen is used by children who have an allergy to peanuts and other things. Well, what McMillan decided to do was to raise the price of their EpiPen by 2 or 3 times since they didn't have much competition. Well, the public rose up against McMillan. And they said, what you're doing is unfair and unequitable. And this has had a very, very damaging impact on the company's image, as well as upon its future profitability. So I think in the long run, for companies to be successful, to be profitable, you have to treat all of your stakeholders, not just your shareholders, in a fair and equitable manner. All right? All right. But please do stop me. Anytime you have questions, this is going to be interactive because I'm going to stop talking in just a little bit. We are going to use some real-life investment cases that professionals have told me about, and you're going to get a chance to vote on what you would do in these particular situations. And then we'll talk about it afterwards. So this is literally the most I'm going to talk. All right? Anyway, stewardship. The financial services industry is at its very core all about the concept of stewardship and all about stewardship values and responsibilities. After all, the foundation of financial markets is public trust and confidence. All right, so some key points I want you to remember. We, all of us in this room, often make unethical decisions not because we are bad people, but because there are psychological biases, social and organizational factors, and situational influences that affect our decision making. These biases, organizational factors, and situational influence lead to weaknesses in how we process information and make decisions. This is what often causes us to make, that can lead to unethical behavior. And I'm going to talk about some of these factors in a minute. But here's a great quote from this professor at Stanford. Situational influences have more to do with unethical behavior than a person's character. Under the right conditions, good people, and I mean all of us in this room, can be induced, seduced, and initiated to act unethically. So there's a big difference between unethical people and unethical actions. Sorry about that. All right? So here's what I want everybody to do is get out their smartphone, tablet, computer, whatever you have with you, and I want you to go to this website and type in this password. And let me just set this up. All right? All right, here we go. Hold on one second. Oh, shoot. All right. Oh, come on. Just did this. Uh-oh, what happened? All right. Actually, instead of CFA 2, go to here, I'll change it. Hold on one second. Go to CFA I. Do you CFA I? Yes, this is the login right there. It's closed. That's okay. As soon as you get session closed, you'll see it. Huh? Yes, that's what you'll get. Yes, you're in. All right, is everybody with me? Yes. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. All right, so here's our first situation. Everybody see that? Because you should see it on your phone. Yes. All right. So here's the situation. Your boss, who hired you and has mentored you for the past 3 years, is being unfairly let go because of office politics. As the sole support of her family, she is concerned about finding another job. 2 weeks before she's scheduled to leave, she places a stack of files on your desk and asks you to copy them. The files contain research reports that she wrote, marketing presentations containing her performance record, and spreadsheet models that she created. So what do? Do you A, copy the files, B, refuse to copy the files, C, only copy the research reports that she wrote, or D, only copy the spreadsheets that she created? So all you have to do is hit A, B, C, or D on your device. And can I help you?
No, I have Windows Phone and none of the browsers are working, so I'm just...
Okay, all right, good. All right, now did yours work? Did you vote?
No, not yet.
Okay, wait, let's see. All right, let's see if you get in again. Okay, CFAI, join session. There you go. All right. All right, is everybody in? We're okay?
Yeah.
All right, everybody vote. Let's see how the votes are coming in. All right. Okay, so I'm going to reveal, everybody okay? I'm going to reveal the results and everything in a moment, but let me ask you this. is there an ethical issue in this particular situation? Now everybody's shaking their head. All right, so who wants to tell me what it is?
The intellectual property of the company.
What is the intellectual? Is it all the intellectual property of the company or just some of it? All of it. Okay. All right. So, but this is your boss though, right? This is the boss who mentored you and hired you 3 years ago. Is that right? And she's still your boss. Right? For 2 more weeks, right? So let's see what you said. What would you do? I'm waiting for this to... Did you get it? Ah, good. All right, 11% of you said copy the files. 89% of you said refuse to copy the files. So who said they would refuse to copy the files? Okay, so I'm going to ask you, what do you mean you would refuse to copy the files?
It's against the policy, so every organization have their own ethics policy.
Right.
So this would be part of it. It's part of integrity, and like someone said, it's integrity of the company, and they would support it.
Okay, but what do you say to your boss who hired you and mentored you for 3 years and who is still your boss for another 2 weeks?
Probably stay away from it. HR policies like that.
You're going to say no?
It's a difficult situation, but
Yeah, it is a difficult situation. It is a very difficult situation. And in fact, all of you are correct because what your boss is really asking you to do is help her steal company property. Everything that you create or do at the company is the property of the company. It's very similar if, in my day we had like real computers with a monitor and a CPU, And so if your boss said, here, grab this monitor and I'll take the CPU, help me out to my car, would you do that? Well, this is very similar. But I do have to tell you what happens in the real situation is this person copied the files. They copied the files because, one, they felt that they had some loyalty to this boss, this person who hired and mentored them. They also felt that they were that this boss had been treated unfairly because of this office politics. So they copied the files, not because they wanted to do anything wrong. They copied these files because they thought that they were helping her. Correct? So this individual felt uncomfortable about doing it, but they copied the files. After the boss left, this individual went to the boss's boss and said, so-and-so asked me to do something and I did it, but I felt uncomfortable about it and I just wanted to tell you what I did. Well, the boss's boss was not happy that this individual had copied the files. But at the same time, they were happy that at least they told them what he had done. Because if they would have found out later, this individual could have gotten into trouble as well. All right? So yes, this person did something wrong, but sometimes we often do things that turn out to be unethical, not because we want to do something bad, but because we think we're helping someone else. All right? All right.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so the file contains research reports that she wrote,
Yes.
her performance record, and
Yes.
the spreadsheet model that she created.
Yes.
Just because there is an inherent understanding that the IP belongs to the company,
Yes.
why does it not belong to the person who created it?
Because
during your employment with that organization,
yes. This whole presentation I created, but I was being paid. Not well, no. I was being paid. I'm kidding. But I was being paid to do it. So this belongs to CFA Institute. Yeah,
Someone that has come from my ideas, even if you pay me for it,
yeah.
how can it belong to someone else?
It does. All right, so here's what happens.
Money cannot buy intellectuality anyways, right?
Well, here's what happens is you create this spreadsheet while you're at this company. Now, you cannot take a physical copy of the spreadsheet with you, whether it's on a diskette or disk, or whether it's on a sheet of paper, but you can take it in your mind. And if you went to another company, you could recreate it from your memory, but you could not physically take it from your current company.
Is the thing then, are we reducing ethics then to just simple physical stuff? If intellectually you can carry everything out,
Yes,
just because there is some copy paste of some file that happened,
right.
we've reduced it to a lot of. The dilemma has become, so we've just so I may not be able to put it in the right way, but
Uh-huh.
You're saying the person still is capable of carrying the information out in
she
his head.
will,
Yes.
it is her property.
Yeah,
It
that
is
in your head
she-
it is
yeah,
your property.
She's carrying it, she created it, it is her property.
In the head.
Yes, but she was paid to create it.
Not only that, do
Recognize-
you think she carried out this research reports or any of that work independently without all the existing information that the organization provided her? She built on somebody else's work.
Some
She
resources.
picked up information which the organization about which was prior, which was owned or the property of the organization also. I don't think if she was outside the organization, she would have written the same things.
The fact
She was
that-
not a professor doing research in
Or
a
her teammates,
university.
right? It's very difficult to slice out that information and say only this part I created. So by and large, we say this is not.
Or that you created it independent of anything else that was owned by the organization.
The fact that you don't have it at your house, it's in the office, shows that you were working on it in the capacity of the role for which you were employed. Else why would you even have it in office? You carry everything that you work on at home, your office. You don't, right? So why was it in office?
You're
in
using
office, it's used for
to
office
create
purposes.
this.
And even if not, you don't sit and analyze which is her property and which is yours. You may not have the capacity to do that as a person in that work scenario.
So let me ask you this. You go to your first day at work, you do not have a computer. And someone says, we're going to buy you an Apple laptop. And it's going to be yours to use while you're at work. Wait. So they buy it for you, and you are the only one who uses it. Can you take that laptop home with you? I mean,
I'll give you another
what?
example.
No, wait.
Tomorrow we come up with a technology
Yes.
that can erase the part of my mind
Right,
where I worked in your company.
right.
Will you erase? Will
Yes,
I allow you to
yes.
erase that part?
You will be in a contract.
No,
Yes.
what the contract
Some of this, I have to say, some of this has to do with law. Some of this has to do with law and contracts, as everyone has said. But I do have to say, in general, anything that you create at your place of employment or for your place of employment is the property of your employer. And to be completely safe and careful, anytime you leave an employer and there are documents that you want to take with you, the best thing that you can do is go to your employer and say, can I take this with me? And it very well may be they say, yes, go ahead. But,
Now I'm getting confused,
yes,
because the moment say something is with law, that's simple enough.
yes,
It's illegal, then law will take its course.
yes.
So we are not talking about anything that is illegal.
Right. Yes, but all I was saying is some of the things you may not take because you have signed a contract. And so you're breaking the contract, which then becomes illegal if you take those things with you.
That is not the point at issue now.
Right.
Because we are talking about unethical, not illegal.
Yes, right. And in this case, it will be
Now,
unethical.
he can still he thinks that he's righting the wrongs of the company. He's thinking that the company is wrong, and as per his conscience, he's doing the right thing.
Well, that may be what we call a rationalization. We often, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, sometimes we rationalize why we do things. So let's suppose I am, because I was in South America recently, and bribery and corruption is very big in South America. So you get stopped for a ticket, and you pay the policeman $100 as opposed to having to pay the cost of the ticket. Well, the policeman may justify that and say, well, I'm not paid very well, so this bribery supports or increases my pay. If you believe that you haven't been treated correctly, there are other ways or other avenues to address that as opposed to taking things from the company. That's how I would answer it. All right? Okay. We love the discussion. I have to tell you, they're only going to get harder after this. So, good. All right. So, ethics can be dangerous to your career because you may be called upon to do things that turn out to be unethical or illegal. Here are two studies. One study was done by Harvard University that found that many graduates received explicit instructions from their middle manager bosses or felt strong organization pressures to do things that they believed were sleazy, unethical, or sometimes illegal. A Columbia University study found that 40% of graduates had been rewarded for taking some action they considered to be ethically troubling, and 31% of those who refused to act in ways they considered to be unethical believed that they were penalized for their choice, compared to less than 20% who felt that they had been rewarded. So these things do happen. All right, so here's this gentleman, Fabrice Touré. He worked at Goldman Sachs. He was found liable on 6 of 7 counts for defrauding investors. On his role in this securities deal that he was charged with, he said, "I was a big team player. If there was something wrong with this transaction, wouldn't people have told me?" Obviously not. Another gentleman, 31. He was the only trader, Thomas Hayes, he was the only trader cited by name in the LIBOR investigation for manipulating LIBOR. On manipulating LIBOR, he said, "Who was I to question what they were doing? I thought it was weird, but that's how they did it." So within a few months, based on practices at the bank and feedback from his bosses, Mr. Hayes considered it part of his job. Next guy, Kweku Adubale, 32. He lost $2.2 billion of UBS's money. First of all, his name and face were the only name and face on the cover of every newspaper and magazine about 7 years ago. I have to tell you, it's very difficult for one person to lose $2.2 billion. It's not like you hit the delete key on your computer and you go, "Oh my goodness." So he told the jury at his trial, senior managers were aware of his actions and encouraged him to take risks. Circumventing the bank's rules was common practice, and I only got in trouble because I lost money. And here's the thing. Everybody loves you when you're generating profits. Nobody knows you when you're incurring losses. Mr. Adubale recently got out of jail, and he did this great interview on this British talk show called Hard Talk. And during the interview, he talks about all of the situational factors and issues that led up to the issues that he had. And so I'm not here to make a value judgment one way or the other, but he talks about a lot of these situational factors as circumstances which sort of lead credence to what we're talking about today. All right, so here's our next situation. Oh, this always is a... All right, so you were the director of research at Parmite, a conservative and prestigious global investment management firm. You have interviewed over 75 people for an equity analyst position and have narrowed down the pool to one, Powell. Powell has a finance degree from a top university, has a 4.0 grade point average, and was the senior class president. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say on this. When you Google Powell's name, a YouTube video comes up showing a sparsely clad Powell drinking and partying with friends. You also notice that Powell has made inappropriate sexual and racial comments about friends on Twitter. So and I'm going to change the question here. Instead of what should you do, I'm going to ask you, what would you do in this circumstance? Would you A, hire Powell, B, try to find more photos of Powell, C, ask Powell to explain the pictures and Twitter comments, D, don't hire Powell? You can talk about it with your seatmates if you want to. All right, the votes are coming in. Oh. So I am always curious about this particular case, because this case varies based, people's responses to this case varies based upon gender, varies based upon age, varies based upon culture. So so let me ask you, before I show the results, are there any ethical issues here? Okay, and what do you believe are the ethical issues? I'm sorry? It just says inappropriate sexual and racial comments. Yes, right. And so how do you define inappropriate? But yes, you are correct. I will say that could be an issue. Anything else? Nobody has an issue with the sparsely clad? Yes?
I think that the video, the sparsely clad video and the inappropriate sexual and racist comments, they are kind of inconsistent with his application of coming from a good school with a CGPA of 4.
Let's talk about this, yeah.
Before hiring somebody merely on the basis of those credentials,
Right.
I would want to know, to have an overall perspective on the applicant.
Okay. Okay, and also I will just point out, just to play devil's advocate, these comments were made about friends or to friends. And sometimes we may say things to friends that we would never say to a stranger or to a colleague or anything else, all right? And then the question is, what do you mean by inappropriate, you know? But let's see what everybody said, and then we could talk about it. All right. Oh, okay. So again, there are no right or wrong answers in this particular case because I can certainly defend every single one of these responses. But I want to see who said hire Powell. Good. And why would you hire Powell?
Because I think his professional.
Oh, wait, is it his or her? Do you think Powell is a man or a woman?
It might be could be an unconscious bias.
Okay, okay.
She. Yes.
Okay, no, it doesn't matter, but yeah.
So her professional credits look excellent.
Right.
Fits my purpose. What she does in her personal life is really none of my business.
Okay, all right. Yes. Do you feel the same way?
Yes. So the second part, the credit, the education that comes with it that matches the job profile is one. The other is what he does in his personal time is different. And that could be, like you said, the inappropriate comments made between friends. I think that shouldn't be taken into consideration when you look at the qualifications and when you want to hire. Even after the person comes into the job,
Right.
if there is a personal life, I don't think we interfere with that.
Okay. Okay, that's great.
Go one step ahead and say you have already interviewed this person.
Yep.
Over 75 people, you found this one to be appropriate.
Okay.
Then it really shouldn't matter what that person does in his or her personal life.
Okay. All right. So now, yes, sir.
What if the Twitter account of that person was hacked?
So what if what?
So if his Twitter account was hacked,
Yes.
someone who didn't like him made that comments on his behalf,
Right.
and you are not giving him a chance to interview.
Okay. All right. So your answer was C. Is that right? Who else said C? Okay. So let me ask, why C?
So, the capability is there, so I don't want to reject.
Okay.
But I do want to ask her or him,
Right.
whoever, that what's the reason? Because when the person is going to work for a conservative and a global investment company,
Okay.
it also reflects on the character of the person. So if he has to go and meet the clients, it may not reflect well. So if the person is open to not socially probably explicitly displaying, because people form opinions, so they
Right.
may not invest in my company. So I'd like to have a conversation about
Okay.
it and then take a decision.
Okay. All right. That's great. Who else said C? Did you say C?
Today at the workplace, inappropriate behavior and sexual harassment is such a big issue.
Okay.
And when somebody comes into the organization, if there is a chance that that person may make people uncomfortable,
Right.
then at least it deserves a conversation.
Okay, so for all of you who said ask Powell to explain the pictures and the comments, what could Powell say to you that would make you hire them?
Other than what he said, my account was hacked.
Okay. Yes, and that wasn't really me in those pictures. That was a mask on my face. I want to know, what could Powell say to you that would convince you?
People react differently when they are being pushed against a corner. So maybe he or she was pushed into a situation where
They had to drink and take off their clothes.
It wouldn't be what he would say.
Uh-huh.
In the conversation, I would be able to judge whether there is a risk of this behavior transcending to the workplace or not.
Okay, I got that. All right, so 45% of you said flat out, don't hire Powell. All right, so who wants to tell me why they would not hire Powell?
For all the reasons she mentioned,
Yes? Okay. You want to restate those reasons?
an organization has strict policies
Right.
against sexual or racial comments.
Right.
And there's this candidate who's already shown that he or she's capable of making such comments.
Okay.
So I wouldn't want to basically hire in case there's going to be issues in the future.
Okay, I got it. Anybody else want to add to that? Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
And it's just that for every person whom I hire, he carries the image of my organization with him. So while I appreciate and respect that we have a personal life, I would not really want that aspect to come out anywhere on social media, especially when I know social media is something people go to immediately
Right.
the moment they would want to know about. Right?
Right.
You put your Twitter handle there anyway, so no way that I would want that to be associated with my company. That's my policy, right? It may
Okay.
not be with yours.
Well, I do have to tell you that, this case causes so much discussion. That's why I like it. And so, so let me tell you what happened, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. The company, in fact, did not hire this individual almost precisely for what you were saying. Although they liked this person's capabilities and thought that they were very smart, they thought that, well, if they could Google and see these pictures and see the comments, what would prevent schools and universities when they are looking at their applicants for admission or for hire, they do Google them.
I'm talking about who are on board.
Once all,
Dell, for example, we have a social media center that tracks everything which has the word Dell, including the comments that employees put on Facebook or Twitter or anything. So a lot of organizations do that. Nobody tracks it. Analytics again. Yeah, analytics.
yes. Yeah.
That's where I'm going, right? See, this much information can be used and leveraged while hiring a prospective person. Are we doing the same with our existing workforce? And how are we ensuring that these things do not happen?
Well, a couple of things is one, companies do monitor what their employees say about the company on social media. And there have been cases where people have been fired because they said to a friend, oh, I hate my company, or whatever, to a friend on Facebook. So they do that. There are other companies out there that actually monitor your email. Anything that you say in the emails, you are monitored. But more importantly, why this is so important is there are, okay, I'll take myself. Someone my age has not lived their whole life on Facebook, has not posted things on Facebook, has not done things. But there are a lot of younger people out there who have just posted everything out. And that does affect their ability to get a job. And whether you like it or not, the point about this is to really encourage people, again, to think about anything that you put on the internet, because it really eventually could come back to affect you. And I've heard, yes.
I have two questions actually. What happens if this person, after he Googles, he does not find anything, the recruiter, but after this person joins the organization,
Right.
there are these things that happen. Then what can an organization do? That's one question.
Yes, okay.
And the second question really is, this inappropriation is really has a big.
That's exactly right. Uh-huh.
What can be inappropriate to me, it may not be inappropriate to another person.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
How can you judge that? How can a person judge?
Right.
That, I will not hire this person just
Right.
because I find that person inappropriate.
Uh-huh. Okay, so your first question was that actually would make a great case. So Sonia, take a note of that. All right, that would make a great case. So if this person is hired, and here's the question: you find these pictures after they are hired, or this person made these pictures and comments after they were hired?
They're hired after 2 years after he works for this
Yes, right, right.
a great person.
I actually think it depends upon the company. And there may be rules in the employee handbook or things like that that would cause this company to fire this individual. Very much so, yes.
For example, Dell has ethics training the day you enter.
Yes.
Right? And it's not a one-time clinic, it happens once every year. And so what happens is it becomes a part of your DNA at the end of the day. I know very clearly that anything I post, there is a high possibility and probability that it will come back to me, and I know what are the things which have been marked as not okay with Dell. They may be legally right, but they're still not okay with Dell.
Right.
Because the fact that I've been there for 12 years now, you know what is there, what is not there. So you can never go back and say, oh, I did know.
So many social media trainings.
Yeah, I'm just worried about the fact that he's done it on his personal Twitter handle.
Yes.
Or I
Yes.
anybody will have, policies about doing things on an IBM associated Twitter handle.
Right.
Not a personal.
There was a case about this woman who worked for this public relations firm, and she was flying from London to Nairobi. And before she boarded the plane, she was tweeting to her friends. She made all of these inappropriate comments about going to Kenya, about Africans, about AIDS, whatever. These were comments that she made to her friends. Well, somehow these comments got back to her employer, and literally, by the time she got off the plane at Nairobi, she was fired. So the moral of this story, if there is we all need to think quite seriously about what we put out there on the internet. And again, for someone my age, that's not as big of an issue as for someone who is perhaps in their late 20s, early. Because I have talked to recruiters who said, oh, we had a pool of candidates, we narrowed it down, and then we saw pictures, and it's not even the pictures itself that are bad, it reflects people's poor judgment or immaturity or whatever, and those are qualities that then lean against it, okay? Yes, please.
Let's take this a few years ago when there was no social media.
Yes.
The same person was sitting in a bar or sitting at a restaurant and making the same comments to a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Today, that opportunity has been replaced by Twitter or Facebook.
Yes.
So, what about freedom of speech? Well, and doesn't the employer
Freedom
know,
doesn't
bound
stop.
by
Twitter is not about
what about equal
Twitter is
opportunity?
not
What
about
about
friends, it is to the world.
No, not necessarily. You could tweet directly to a person.
But it would not have been found by somebody else.
Can
na?
you
It was
no,
by
you
Twitter.
can, right? Of course you can. It's not a direct message. You can tweet in a public forum to a person.
That's not even a public forum.
I actually
Even
think
Facebook
I am
is a
not
public
your
forum.
friend.
I'm not your friend, but I can read it. This is a public forum.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Yes, go ahead, yes. This case always causes such, I love it. Yes.
Not the same as having a one-on-one.
I love it. This is great. All right. Let's hear. One at a time. Yes.
So in this case, this is a sexual and racial comment, and maybe we can feel judgmental that is not the way to go.
Okay.
But let's say in a conservative society like India, I could take it a step further, right? There's a graduate student who dresses up on a Friday night and goes party.
Right.
I, as an employer, might see that picture and say, oh my God, what is she wearing? I don't want to hire her.
Uh-huh.
You never know where you take this, right? So
Yes,
I
yes.
think it's, that's why I think professional and personal life should be separated. As long as you're not saying anything about the company and
Right.
taking responsibility on their handles, you should be okay in doing, because my fear is that in societies which are conservative, you don't know where.
It's not even societies that concern. I don't know whether you call the U.S. a conservative society, but within the U.S. there are conservative companies and things like that. And the moral of this story is, and I certainly agree with you, that your personal life you should be able to do whatever you want to do in your personal life. The moral of this story is, whatever you do, think about how it could potentially affect you if the whole world or your employer sees it. That's really the point is. And you hope you work for a company that just doesn't care, but you may work for a company that actually does care. And so if there are inappropriate pictures of you or comments, your name is not going to be attached to it. It's going to be, if I can use Dell employee says XYZ. So it's going to be the company who's dragged into it, not the individual. And it's their reputation. Yes, I think that's unfair, but still that makes a better story to say Dell employee as opposed to just your name. So just think about whatever you say out there, okay?
So what are the laws? That's what I was asking. In real life, what protects this particular person?
Nothing. They just may work, they may go, let's say they want to go and work for, I'm going to pick a name, Google. Google could probably care less. They could care less. But to this company, it's something important. And this individual may say, I don't want to work for a company that cares so much about my pictures that they wouldn't hire me. I don't want to work for a company like this. All right? I'm going to move on. But I'm glad we stirred this conversation. So I love this cartoon, run this by the legal department, but run super fast so the ethics department doesn't see it. All right? As I said to you earlier, there's a big difference between the law and ethics. And also I want to emphasize, yes, the law represents, again, the minimum standard. The law tells us what we can and cannot do. Ethics really focuses upon what we should and shouldn't do. And that's the same with compliance. You may all work for companies that have compliance departments. You know, every single bank that has paid billions and billions of dollars of fines have also had compliance departments and have had compliance people that are smart, very capable people, but yet people still did things wrong. Why? Because there is a difference between compliance. The compliance people want to make sure everybody follows the rules. Ethics, or people who focus upon ethics, try and ensure that employees live up to a much higher standard than just following the rules. And I think if more companies focused upon creating an ethical culture as opposed to a culture of compliance, we might not see some of the problems that we do. All right? All right, so we have another situation. You are a portfolio manager in the international sector who travels to a foreign country to investigate investment opportunities for your institutional clients. The management of a large company that you visit and a potentially attractive investment opportunity gives you a very expensive gift. Refusing the gift would be considered an insult in this country and harm the good relations that you have developed with the company's management. So, accepting the gift is A, okay, because refusal in this instance would jeopardize an investment opportunity for your clients. B, probably okay if you give the gift to charity. C, probably not okay unless you tell your supervisor that you accepted the gift. D, not okay. Now, before you vote, let me ask you this. What do you think the very expensive gift should be? A what? A BMW, you got to get it on the plane. That's going to be a little bit difficult. This company, we don't know whether this company has a threshold or not. It's just a very, how about a watch? A watch? All right. A Rolex, I hear. All right. All right, so now decide what you would do in this instance.
Our company sees above $100 as expensive, so not okay.
I say 50.
Well, I'm going to ask you to vote, but let me just say this. There are some companies, there are some countries that don't have gift-giving policies. And also something to remember or take into consideration is refusing the gift would be considered an insult in this country. Okay? So, vote, and we'll talk about it. Okay, everybody vote? Everybody vote? Okay. Is there an ethical issue in this particular case? All right, what is it? It may be considered a bribe, but I do have to say in some cases, there are some countries where gift giving, especially expensive gift giving, is done as a form of friendship, as a way to build relationships, not as a bribe.
But it doesn't have to be expensive.
Well, but it depends on the country. Some countries may not think giving a Rolex is a necessarily expensive gift. Yes?
I will come back to your point where you said that it would probably be rationalizing the whole issue, because here what the person has to look at is the company that you work for.
Right.
What's more important than what's defined by that company, rather than by the customer or the investment opportunity that you're visiting. If you start rationalizing, saying it's going to be an insult because it's your country and in your country it's considered an insult.
Right.
I'm kind of rationalizing the behavior that I was expected to demonstrate by my company.
Okay, but I do have to say in some countries, if you do refuse an expensive gift, it actually is considered an insult and can damage a relationship that you were building. It's true. So I'm going to see what you said, and then we'll go from there. All right. 11% said it was okay. Who said it was okay? Yeah. Why okay?
Because line 3 tells me that the management you have visited represents a very potentially attractive investment opportunity.
Right.
So since I'm representing the company, and in the end, if I decide to go with this, I don't want to kind of goof up my relations with this company by returning the gift. Because I already know that in this particular country, returning the gift would be an insult.
That's right. So good. I agree with you. Who would give it to charity? Oh, you're so nice. Who would give it to charity? I like that. Would you give it to charity? Okay. All right. Who would say probably not okay unless you tell your supervisor? Well, somebody said it. All right. So 79% of you said it's not okay. Why is it not okay? And who said that? Okay. Okay. I don't know. You said it was not okay? All right. So let me ask, what is your name? Gayatri. All right. So here's the situation. You're in this country. It's your last night in the country. The company has a big dinner for you. And they say, Gayatri, come up on stage. Lights, audience. And they say, we would like to give you a small token of our appreciation. And they give you this gift. They give you this watch. What do?
I don't want it.
You just insult them right then and there. You go, I don't want it.
No, I'll explain about my
Right there on stage? Okay.
my consciousness that I don't want to take something for helping the company for myself. I don't want to take.
Okay, but here's the thing. You thought it was a potentially attractive investment opportunity before you got the watch. So now, it's not like it's affecting your judgment, right? Now you just really think it's an attractive opportunity. Does your company have a gift-giving policy?
Yeah, we have.
What is the policy, may I ask?
This, expensive is only up to $50.
Okay.
Dinner without wine and alcohol.
Okay. All right. Oh, so your gift-giving policy is the same as your entertainment policy. Okay. So let me ask you, who else said no? Refuse. So, sir, what would you say when they call you up on stage? What's your name? Ankur. What would you say?
So, it's a different thing on the stage.
You said, can I take the files home with me? Good.
Gives you expensive gift. So it was for if they have a gift giving, there's a country who gives gifts, right?
Yes.
So if it is for my company, it's okay.
No, it's for you.
Yeah. But for me, it's not okay because why do I gain in the process? So my belief is
You gain a closer relationship with this company.
my company gains the closer relationship because of me.
Yes.
Because I'm an employee there, the company gains, and if there is a gift giving policy, what I would talk to them is, gifts could be given to corporations.
But not a watch.
Something else.
Yes.
It could well be.
They can give potential investment opportunities.
Okay, that's actually a good idea.
Second thing is psychologically, if I do accept something today, I might give them some favor later on, which I may also not realize.
Okay.
Psychologically, there could be something that could come up later.
So what do you say to them when you're up on stage and they go, here's a token of our appreciation?
So I would take it and then give it back.
Okay. And what would you say to them?
Depends on what the country is. If they're too aggressive people, something else. If they're softer people, I would say something else.
Okay, so as if they're
Generally,
aggressive.
I would bend and kind of say a thank you politely and say sorry.
Okay, all right.
I don't think it's on stage. You don't know what the gift is, right? It's not like it's written inside Rolex watch.
Or they may just show it to you. Oh, we're giving them this, yeah.
Then title not required. I think it's just a packed thing, and then later you have the option of saying no. But if it's shown, then definitely no.
Okay. So suppose if it's all wrapped and you put it in your bag and then on the plane the next day, you open it up and you see it's a Rolex watch. What do you do?
So then you have no other option again because of the standing. No, you go back to your office, you declare what happened, you put a note along with it, and you send it back with the approvals of your, not just the supervisor, but the team or the leadership team, whatever it is.
Okay. All right. Okay, so here's the issue with all of this. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. I'll tell you what happened in a moment. This person did accept the gift because their company had a policy. If you're ever in a position where refusing a gift would insult the giver, then accept the gift on behalf of the company, and then the company would collect the gift afterwards and have an auction or donate to charity or something like that. So that was their policy. But in situations where your company has a strict policy, the one thing you can say is, yes, accept the gift, and then later on say, I'm sorry, my company has a policy that prevents us from accepting gifts for more than $50, $100 or whatever. So that is a way to get around that. Yes?
Since the company is actually representing other clients and looking at investment opportunity for other clients, wouldn't it be even wrong for the company at the company level to accept the gift?
Well, again, you don't.
Unless they declare it to the investors.
Yes, but again, this was just their policy that they just didn't want to insult anybody. And this was the best way to do it. If it really was going to be an insult, just accept it on behalf of the company and then go on. All right?
And I think another thing in this case was very obvious that the decision had been made well in advance of receiving the gift, right? As in, you had already identified that company as a potential.
Yes, exactly. Yes, you already like the company.
And
Yeah.
there are many negotiations that follow after such an acceptance also, right? In terms of deed terms and other things.
No. You're exactly right, but it lessens the independence by the company accepting it as opposed to the individual. And again, the company would turn around and auction it off or whatever, but without trying to sound like they're being influenced, right? Now, here's the question. You know, the CFA Institute used to have a gift-giving policy, and it said that you could not accept a gift for more than $100. And 5 years ago, we got rid of that. Because the problem is, as a global organization, it became very difficult to figure out $100. I had to translate that into rupees, I had to translate that into euros, into Argentine pesos, etc. So that was one of the problems. And then the second problem was, well, what do you mean by $100? Do you mean $100 face value? Do you mean $100 market value? Do you mean $100 retail, wholesale? You know, it goes on and on. What do you mean? So because people could kind of manipulate this rule, we took the rule out, and now it says that you cannot accept any gift that could be reasonably expected to compromise your independence and objectivity. So like everything else, it's now a principle, and it's now based upon judgment. And what I thought was so interesting is, and I learned this at another company, is that some companies have dining rules or entertainment rules depending upon what country you're in, which I thought was very, does anybody else have rules like that? Okay, and so what are the countries? What are the rules? Now that was something I never heard before, so I'm learning. What are the rules?
Very similar. No alcohol, but you can take your client out or customer out for dining.
All right, and so suppose if somebody takes you out, like a vendor, is that okay?
No. Sorry, what was that? Did someone?
A vendor.
As a vendor.
A vendor.
Oh, yes. I think that's okay.
No? And so let me ask you this. How much are you able to spend on a potential client for dinner?
$75 per person.
Per person, all right? And again, does that vary by locale? All right. So I suppose if you're in New York, how much?
$75 per person, including alcohol and taxes separate, if not included.
Okay. All right. Yes.
So I just compliment to that. For example, at Dell India, it is $75 per person, including taxes.
Uh-huh.
If you go to Dell Malaysia, the amount varies, and also the components that can be included in it. For example, it's okay to have a beer and a wine glass in it in a Dell Malaysia, and that would get approved, but it will never get approved for a Dell India.
Oh.
It's the same Dell organization,
Right.
but by location,
Okay, I got that. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. Yes.
I think in IBM, the alcohol thing is only in India.
Okay.
Not
Ah.
abroad.
Okay. All right. See, I was doing this with a company in New York, and we were talking about, well, how much is appropriate to spend? And New York City is a very expensive city. So $50 for dinner in New York, that would get you bread and some iced tea. That's it, you know? So then it's $100 all right? And people go, yes. Well, then what about $200? And again, it's this discussion about at what point does it become bribery, if you will, or at what point does it become inappropriate, and at what point it does, you know? If $200 okay, well then it's $500 okay, or what have you. Yes?
Exactly, carrying a point forward. Therefore, what you mentioned earlier about the CFA Institute doing away with the $100 rule, I think that significantly dilutes the ethical policy of the institute.
By having a principle?
Yes.
Well, again, as
You're leaving it in the judgment of somebody, and that person can justify anything.
Well, no, that could be reasonably expected, okay? So it is judgment. It is judgment. And I think so much of ethics comes down to judgment. And I think that if you received a gift for $250, I'm going to pull that number out of the air, most people in this room would say, that's inappropriate, right?
Maybe not. Maybe at a higher senior level, maybe even 2,000.
Okay, so yes. So again, that's why.
Having a clear-cut answer, maybe it would translate to different things in different currencies.
Right.
Being financial professionals, I don't think that's a big hurdle for them to calculate. Secondly, also 100 rupees, whether $100, whether it is cost price or perceived value. Or
Right.
Only it can be 20% higher or 20% lower, but in leaving it open to interpretation, it can be 1,000 times higher.
To her point, having a global standard direction is always good based upon country laws and requirements. Yes, the countries can actually go back and see how they want to work on it. But having no guidance, like as you rightly said, for a person in New York, you go around spending $200. For me to go above $75, I will really be worried.
Yes.
Guidance is necessary, and thereafter, if you're exceeding or likely to exceed, then obviously you can go and talk to people and get it done.
And here is the rule for CFA Institute. So that's the principle, but one of our other standards is CFA charter holders have to follow our code of ethics, the laws and rules of the companies of the countries in which we're doing business, or the company that we work for, whichever one is stricter. So if I work for a company that says $50, that is the rule that I have to follow. You know?
That would be binding even if you're not part of CFA. No, everybody as a
It would be.
That depends what does your company say. So if my company says don't care about the country, don't care about the other company, just follow yours.
All right, so I'm going to wrap it up right about now. How's my timing, by the way? Do I have time? No. Tell me? All right, I have time. All right, so, okay. My plug-in, find another power source. Is there another power source? Because I don't think that's working. No. Oh, okay, now it's working. All right, thank you. All right, so I talked about the CFA Code of Standards, but here's the thing. When you were a professional, whether you were an accountant, a lawyer, a doctor, or an investment, these are basic principles that every professional should follow. Client interests come first. It's important to maintain your independence and objectivity. You should avoid as many conflicts of interest as possible, but when you can't avoid them, you should manage them. And the best way to manage them is through full and fair disclosure so that your client or your employer can make an informed decision. Preservation of confidentiality, not only of your client's confidentiality, but also your employer. Deal fairly with clients and use reasonable care and prudent judgment. Again, basic principles everybody should follow. CFA charter equals ethics. There is our code of ethics and standards of professional conduct. Now I'm going to skip this last one, but let me just go ahead. I love this cartoon. It goes back to what somebody said earlier. It says honesty is the best policy. Okay, now what's the second best policy? And what I tell people is, if you want a job in the investment industry, well, honesty may not be the best policy. However, if you want a career in the investment industry, then honesty is the only policy. No one stays in this business for 10, 15, or 20 years by being dishonest. Have you ever had the experience of taking your car in or something to get repaired and you don't think it was prepared correctly, or you think they charged you too much money? What do? You pay them, but you never go back again. So that person made money off of you that one time. But because you didn't trust them, they forego that stream of income that you could have done if you trusted them, you know? So, unethical actions of infamous wrongdoers who have recently populated the crime sections of the financial papers do not prove they are evil people. Instead, they illustrate that the circumstances in which we find ourselves often, not always, have more to do with the decisions we make and actions we take than do our basic character traits. So again, a difference between unethical people and unethical actions. So we were talking about rationalizations. We use them to avoid or reduce the negative effect that accompanies performing an unethical act. We use it to justify behavior that is inconsistent with our own opinion. We use them to change our perception of a situation or social environment, again, to justify our behavior. There's never been an act done since the beginning, from a kid stealing candy to a dictator committing genocide, that the person doing it didn't think he was fully justified. That's a mental trick called rationalizing, and it's done the human race more harm than anything else you can name. Here's some rationalizations. Everybody else is doing it, so it must be okay. That's the way they do it at firm X. If we don't do it, somebody else will. Doesn't really hurt anyone. Not a big deal. And this last one, I want to be a team player, I want to be loyal. And actually, that is one of the quotes that one of the gentlemen I showed you before. That especially affects newer entrants into the industry. They'll say, come on, do it. Be a team player. All right? So I am going to wrap up here. Let's see, where is this thing? Come on. We started off our discussion talking about ethics. Begins with education, then requires thinking about honesty, integrity, character, and stewardship. Thank you. So hopefully, if you're thinking about these things, you will be able to acknowledge, hey, there's an ethical issue here. Determine who's faced with and owns the problem. Gather the relevant data, get the facts. When I say test the wrong versus right parameters, ask yourself, is this legal? Is this illegal? Can I do this? Can I not do this? Test for the right versus right paradigm by asking yourself, is this ethical? Should I do this? Should I not do this? Apply the resolution principles. Am I putting my client interests first? Is this affecting my independence and objectivity? Am I fully and fairly disclosing all the information that's needed? Investigate compromise, third way options, make a decision, and reflect on what you've learned from that decision. So you should start looking for a new job if your boss asks you to do something and then says one of the following: no one will ever know. This conversation never happened. Or it doesn't matter how it gets done as long as it gets done. So I'll leave you with this parting thought. If you don't have integrity, you have nothing. You can't buy it. You can have all the money in the world, but if you are not a moral or ethical person, you really have nothing. So thank you all very much. This was quite enjoyable. Thanks.